Is classical music dying? On the surface, the packed halls at certain prestigious concerts may suggest otherwise, but beneath this veneer of prestige lies a troubling reality. Classical music is facing genuine threats to its survival. In this video, I'll explore 7 compelling reasons why classical music is struggling and consider whether these trends could eventually lead to its extinction. 1. Knowledge and context. What's a sonata, symphony, a movement, a prelude, etude, variation, or fugue? What's a concerto? What's baroque, classical, proto-romantic, romantic, post-romantic, or atonal? What's a major key or minor key? What's counterpoint? What's a modulation? The problem with classical music is that there are minimum prerequisites that one needs to know in order to experience a piece fully. On top of that bit of music theory, one also needs to know a bit about the composer, the time they're in, and the context behind the composition. Does the average modern listener really want to do their homework before listening, or do they prefer their music to be in quick, short doses, easily digestible, and without prerequisites? Number 2. Follow the money. Why do we have more performers than we do composers?
Crisis?
Crisis at
It's a crisis of composer, not a piano.
I think the modern day equivalents of Beethoven are the Hans Zimmers, Nicholas Brittles of this world. The number one motivator for composition back in the day was through commission or patronage. In modern times, the real money is in film, TV, or video game music, so naturally, composers will flock to that genre. However, the difference is in classical times, the composer was the quote-unquote director and had full creative control, whereas in film, TV, or video games, the composer is merely a tool used as part of the director's artistic vision, limiting their creative autonomy. This is the average of how much a regular composer makes, and this is a list of the highest earning movie composers. If you're actually a good composer, why waste your talent on concertos and sonatas when you can easily make serious money in movies or video games? 3. Elitism and accessibility. Classical music often carries the stigma of elitism. It's seen as something exclusive, expensive, and reserved for the cultured few. Upper-class audiences in tuxedos and gowns, rigid concert etiquette, and costly ticket prices reinforce the stereotype. As a result, many attend classical concerts as a social status statement to maintain their image of prestige as well as have an excuse to dress up rather than out of genuine appreciation. This perception alienates potential new listeners who view classical music as intimidating or inaccessible. Also, those who do pursue higher levels of music are often too occupied with creating more cerebral, quote-unquote, atonal music that only people highly educated in music like themselves can enjoy. 4. Shrinking attention spans. Since the introduction of radio and TV, our attention span as a species has taken a downward spiral towards deficit. The emergence of social media has exponentially accelerated that decline, and now even TikTok has reduced our attention span to withstand no more than 10-second snippets of quick dopamine bursts. Long gone are the days of spending 2 hours listening to a Mahler symphony, and in comes that 5-second clip of Vivaldi's Spring that's sufficient enough to show everyone you're still cultured. 5. The gatekeeping of modern classical criticism. Composers who today write using melodic or tonal frameworks reminiscent of the 18th and 19th centuries often face harsh criticism. Critics will label them as derivative or imitating, and they'll get sneers from the intellectual elite as well. Take prodigal genius Alma Deutscher as an example, a modern composer who writes beautiful melodious music in the spirit of the 19th century. Her critics say Deutscher writes with a pastel melodious idiom, and it is a duty of the young generations of artists should be to give to the audience not what it wants, but what it needs. Young Deutscher responds to these critiques by saying, "But I think that these people just got a little bit confused. If the world is so ugly, then what's the point of making it even uglier with ugly music?" Yet, critics continue to insist on complexity or atonality as markers of artistic authenticity, pushing away potential listeners who seek beauty, simplicity, and emotional resonance. 6. The institutional neglect of music education. Music education's diminishing importance in schools means fewer people are learning about classical music, its rich history, or even basic music literacy. The loss of standardized music education results in generations who grow up unaware of classical music's relevance or value. Without early exposure, young listeners are less likely to discover or appreciate classical music, severely limiting the genre's ability to rejuvenate itself through new, engaged audiences. 7. Academization and suppression of creativity. Formal music institutions, conservatories, competitions, and prestigious orchestras often discourage individuality and risk-taking. They've turned the art into a science. Young musicians who deviate from the expected interpretations or display unconventional creativity risk rejection from the classical music establishment, leading to a culture where true artistic innovation becomes rare and undervalued. More and more, we're getting streamlined versions of factory-produced musicians who are able to replicate the score perfectly but apply little in terms of individuality or creativity. The odd apples that do are shunned by the industry and have to get super lucky to make it. Musicians who survive must often conform to highly restrictive industry expectations, stifling creative expression and originality. Thus, classical music struggles not only from lack of fresh, informed audiences, but also from the suppression of innovative spirits that could revitalize the genre. Despite these significant challenges, some argue classical music is far from dead. New media platforms make classical pieces more accessible than ever, reaching global audiences previously unimaginable. As much as I hate to say it, musicians like Lang Lang, Yuja Wang, or Shiko Mason bring fresh energy and diverse audiences, demonstrating that with adaptability, classical music can thrive. You can hate them as much as you want, and some of you who know me personally know what I really think, but facts are facts. These musicians do the highest numbers online and fill out halls consistently. They are what bridges non-classical listeners to classical music. Additionally, film and video game scores inspired by classical traditions introduce millions to the genre indirectly. I'm going to talk about some possible solutions for the issue of context and prerequisite knowledge. If the listener doesn't prefer to read, Wikipedia is a great source that gives you fast and easy access to all the information and context you may need. Otherwise, YouTube is a great educational source, and there are plenty of channels that provide engaging classical music context. For live concerts, I believe the idea of a pre-concert mini-lecture or introduction to be very useful. I once attended a concert at the BBC Proms where they dedicated some time at the beginning for a lecture and demonstration of the music they're going to play. I was in the company of two people who had absolutely zero interest in classical music, but they were totally engaged and were able to appreciate the symphony because of the lecture.
Well, what we need next is a grand heroic theme, something appropriate for this epic finale. And that is it. Except there's nothing grand or heroic about it. I mean, it's laughably simple, isn't it? And yet these few bars contain the musical DNA of the entire last movement. Now, since we're going to be playing this theme rather a lot this evening, I suggest we get to know it a little bit better by having a go at singing it together. What unexpected enthusiasm. It's not too hard. So this is how it goes. I'm going to get the orchestra to sing it once first. The first few bars are a little bit like hot cross buns. Dum, 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 dum. Followed by a snappy, jazzy ending. Dum, 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 dum. Easy. Now, you're always worryingly good. Let's dive straight in, shall we? After two, and 1, 2. Just watch out, there were a couple of you, I think you know who you were. Dum, 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 dum. There's a nice little rest there, no one down here did that. Okay. Should we have one more go all together? And also not so elephantine, perhaps. Is it creepy little mice? Here we are, after 2, and 1, 2. That's genuinely Very beautiful. Thank you. Fantastic. So what does he do with this phrase? Well, he repeats it, this time introducing the woodwind in a kind of copying game. It's like a game of cat and mouse, and the two animals find each other at the end. Dum 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 for that last little bit. Now, it's always been an ambition of mine to hear what it might sound like with 6,000 people in the Royal Albert Hall singing this in antiphonal chaos. So, look, if we divide, here's the middle point, anyone this side of the middle point with me and the strings over here, anyone of that side of the middle point with Tom and the woodwind.
We're going to win. It's going to be fine.
Just to show that this works, Tom and I bravely are going to have a go first. Are you ready, Tom?
No, but never mind.
Okay. It goes like this. Dum
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 dum dum dum dum dum dum.
Your turn.
Okay. Following me, following Tom, what could go wrong?
Nothing.
Here we are. After two. And 1, 2.
Dum
Wow. How about that?
As for the issue of money, I don't think there's a solution to match the Hollywood money-making machine. We just have to hope for more passionate patrons. More people like Yoko Nagai, who spent her entire fortune on musicians, buying a $10 million Kreutzer Stradivarius violin for Maxim Van Gogh. Valery Gergiev was investigated for his immense wealth and land all over Europe, which later turned out to stem from Yoko Nagai's inheritance. As for elitism, if some of the snobs don't fix their attitudes, they're only going to accelerate the extinction of the industry. Anecdotally, I'm a board-certified medical doctor, having been in academia for nearly 16 years, and therefore have had plenty of exposure to highly intellectual people. And let me tell you this, from my experience, even with musicians, the really smart, talented, and intellectual people are always the most humble. The ones that are loud and snobby are actually just idiots hiding behind their degrees, and usually their loudness is a compensation for something that they're lacking. Institutionally, anyone who loves classical music should speak to their local politician or representative. Schools and communities need to reinvest in comprehensive music education programs. Young people need to be exposed to classical music early and consistently. As for the critics, well, they're a dime a dozen nowadays. They can make or break a musician's lifetime of effort with just a few words, with little to no consequences. I believe criticism is an art, and maybe, just like any other art, there should be something like a Rotten Tomatoes website where instead of musicians getting reviewed, it's the critics themselves getting reviewed. You'll get to see who's credible and who's not instantly, and a poorly justified review will have its consequences. In conclusion, classical music undoubtedly faces critical obstacles. Educational neglect, financial shifts, elitist perceptions, shrinking attention spans, restrictive criticism, and institutional conservatism. While these challenges are substantial, classical music's survival depends on its ability to adapt, modernize, and embrace innovation without losing its core identity. Recognizing these problems openly is a first step towards meaningful change, ensuring classical music remains a living, breathing art form rather than a fading echo of the past. These videos are hit with copyright as soon as I publish them here and are ineligible for monetization. So if you enjoyed this content and would like to support me in making more, click the link below to buy me a coffee. And don't forget to like, subscribe, click the bell icon button, and I'll see you in the next one.